we have a little video here to show that was put together by Sarah Galway, and we're going to see if there she is over there. I was looking for you, had no idea where she was. And Bobby Herbs. So I'm going to see if this technology works, because I can break anything. Let's see here. And then I click into this.
There were a lot of other states that had native plant societies, and New Jersey had none. And initially it started off as a group, just sort of a chat meeting at Frelinghuysen Arboretum. We kicked off in 1983 and formed the society. And we started having the meetings, sort of rotating it around to people's houses. It was a small group, maybe we'd have 10 or 15 people. With a few people, it kind of fell on originally whoever was willing to take up the reins of the organization and kind of run with it. Kathy Salisbury, she was the one that was instrumental in just basically getting a lot of the initial chapters formed. Even though New Jersey is a small state, it was pretty cumbersome from somebody up in Sussex are not really dealing with the same kind of environment or the same kind of soils that the people down in Cape May or Atlantic County are dealing with. So it was a little more localized and a lot more folks involved in those local chapters. So it's really it's a quantum leap from where it was in 1983. I had never envisioned that it could get to this level at this scale. The society for me has been, sort of a very interesting, wonderful journey, and it's a good group. It's a lot of fun, and I think in the bottom line is I think we've done a lot of good, and we'll continue.
I will tell you that right before this all started, Bob Swain asked me if this was just the embarrassed Bob Swain meeting this year. So, but that was a fabulous, fabulous video. Thank you for cobbling that together from the history interview. There's a longer interview for Bob that was done as part of the 40th anniversary NPSNJ history series. But that was boiled down so that you got to see it in 2 minutes, which was wonderful. So now I would like to introduce Bill Young, past president of NPSNJ, board ecologist, and a very, very long-time friend and colleague of Bob Swain's. So come on up, Bill.
Okay. So the Bob Swain embarrassment tour continues. This guy doesn't ask a clock for the time of day, and sorry, you're going to get some recognition for a goddamn lifetime given to the earth. So my wife said, "It's not about you, Bill, even though my career is totally dependent on him." So she said, "Take all slides of you out." So here's Bob. This is the new forever Bob Swain Award for Native Plant Leadership, and he's a founding member of all the stuff we went through, and he just has amazing skills and talents, and he's a legend. See, read the can. The man is a legend. So Bob started out, he just started out with a Chevy Vega and a wheelbarrow. He had nothing, and he built this amazing company. And we're all talking about our gardens, and even Larry Weiner, the great Larry Weiner is 1/3 of an acre, and this guy does 16,000 acres a month, And so the scale of what he does, I hope you're going to enjoy this because it's kind of a fast run through his life. So here's living shoreline. Whenever there's a new thing that comes out in ecological restoration, Bob is right at the forefront, getting the equipment, getting the training, and doing it right. I got paid for a design that I did for the Bayhead Yacht Club. He did the design on the back of an envelope. So I took that and turned it into AutoCAD and got paid for my landscape architecture, but it was exactly what he put on the back of the envelope. So he's the aw shucks kid. He would just do a design and it was perfect. All right. What a journey. Born a farmer's son, Freehold, New Jersey, decided quickly milking cows, farming, not for him. Went to Rutgers, biology, horticulture, but most of his mates were med school. No thanks to med school. I want to be an ecologist, and that's before the word even was invented. He was going to go to grad school until Uncle Sam called and off to Vietnam, 13 months as a combat engineer with the 5th Mechanized Infantry. He was awarded the Bronze Star. That is Bob Swain. That is Bob Swain in Vietnam. Don't mess with the Bob. And he didn't sit in some office in Saigon. He was way up north where the action was. So glad he's with us. What a life's journey. He returned home in one piece, married the love of his life, Judith Carsonson. And may she rest in peace. She just passed. She was a legend. And the earth is missing an angel. And then cross-country honeymoon. They went to, I don't know, like 40 states in the back of a van. I can't believe they were still talking to each other. And she said 20 years later, you couldn't pay me, like, I don't know, couldn't pay me. Now I'm going to a hotel. And then off to grad school, back to Rutgers. So here we are today to honor a man who does not so much as ask a clock for the time of day. Sorry, Bob, it's all coming your way. You've earned this. And yet, you want to sit down and talk with him, he will give you his time so generously all the time you need. And every one of us who knows Bob will say that is our boy. That is our boy right there. So started with a Chevy Vega and a wheelbarrow and did whatever, like golf courses. He did trees on the top of Caesar's Palace, like any of the casinos. He did snow plowing, anything to just keep the doors open, right? That he could run a business. And then came ecological restoration. It really was pretty new in the 80s. We used to call it reclamation. And it's about restoring systems that were lost. We've lost so much. So going backwards and restoring them. And Bob decided, this is what I want to do. I'm going to get the right equipment. I'm going to get the right training, and we're going to do this kind of work. We're going to make a niche that people who are designing these big cleanups and big restoration, we're going to hire Dawson to do this work. So this is from Mannahatta, the project from National Geographic, where they took old surveys and maps and said what New York looked like before it got built out. Well, the 120 projects that Bob did in New York City is help greening this back up. And restoration is trying to be accurate, like Larry Weiner talked about, and go back to the ecosystems that were there. And we do a 1 acre job in Brooklyn, and like overnight, this wildlife would come back. And I'm like saying, where have you been? And the wildlife is like, no, Bill, where have you been? And they finally got, and so New York it was given up for dead in 1960. It was so polluted, and it's come back like gangbusters. And of course, the Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act kind of helped. So Bob specialized. This is just a partial list of the jobs that Dawson did. They just kept growing, local, then state and federal, like big scale jobs, and he kind of grew with it. So this is a tiny list, but again, with the Chevy Vega, he started out, and his wife, Judy, said, save your money on a wedding ring. I'll be able to get it later. I want you to grow your business. And so 10 years later, she got 10 wedding rings for each finger. So green infrastructure, living shorelines, that's one of the new restoration menu items. And this is in Avon by the Sea. It is Sylvan Lake. We took down a wooden wall and put back a living shoreline, graded all these native plants, and a lot of stormwater management, where they now take the stormwater and route it through these rocks so it gets some treatment and some polishing. Bob didn't design it, but boy, did he confer with the designer, who kind of had an idea and said, when do you do this? And so it started this whole thing called design build. And Larry even talked about it. Nature is so dynamic, you have to have a good collaborator and work with them on this. And Bob was just the best partner to have. Biologs, always core, so it decomposes, no plastic, all of course native plants, and just built a living shoreline. And the frogs and turtles and fish are like, thank you very much. And the mayor of Bradley Beach on the other side, he's got a ugly wooden wall, a dead shoreline. He goes, I want a living shoreline too. So the stormwater comes out and routes through. This was designed by Matrix. They won an award. Bob won 0 awards, but he built it and certainly advised. But it gets a little bit of treatment, and it's a little forebay there before it goes out into the lake. And the change is amazing. This living shoreline and the biodiversity, which we talked about all morning, the biodiversity is through the roof. If you build it, they will come. It all starts with native plants. I'm preaching to the choir. And so there was a whole movement in cities, and still going on, for green streets, where they're retiring the sewers and they're putting the catch basin into a rain garden. And it's called Green Streets. And Bob did a couple in Brooklyn, in New York, and he did the first one, Sailor's Grove, that was ever done in Philadelphia. If you ever go to Germantown, Philadelphia, there's Sailor's Grove is a place, and it's got a BMP, and it's got a wetland, and it's got the forebay. And the designer said, like, we kind of have a concept, you know, and that was Bob's strength. He would collaborate with them. He never made a designer look bad. He would make them look good. Credit, 0. Never got credit. Just pay me. Just pay me for my work, and we're happy. And so they did these green streets, and they're taking stormwater out of the CSOs, out of the combined sewer, which is polluting our lakes, it's polluting our bays, and polluting our rivers. So every gallon you take out is a home run. So we all know about this. It's fantastic. Now we got into super funds and brownfields. Bob gave us all 40-hour hazmat training. Larry Weiner, a great designer, he can't come on this site without that certificate. We all got it. So I'm getting all this credit for doing this restoration, and I'm the project manager, but Bob was the one that trained us and gave us that ability to do that. That's my gratitude. So this is in Wilmington, Delaware. We were just at a conference 2 days ago. This was the banner project because they took 100 years of waste, cleaned it up, put it in a beautiful wetland park, and then took all the stormwater that used to flood the neighborhood and put it in our wetland. We like water. So the water from the Christina River is now coming in here. So here we are planting it. We didn't do the disposal, we didn't do the remediation, but we did the restoration. And the contractor, who did $27 million worth of work, used our credentials to get the job. You had to have qualifications, and we had them all. So our 1.5 million gave the $27 million contractor the job. So we call that the tail wagging the dog. So he decided to pursue this, and we're very grateful for that. And then it's like 6 different wetland ecosystems, some upland ecosystems. It's a beautiful design, award-winning, RK&K architects, and that's how it looked. They put in all these channels, and there's a boardwalk that goes right through from sort of a minority neighborhood, black and brown, kind of a food desert. You go across the way, and there's supermarkets and good shopping and good healthy food. So that boardwalk is a perfect little, path over to some good stuff. Here's our planting, thousands and thousands of plants. So this is now famous. It's won these awards. It got federal money, EPA, and so they're all bragging about it. And we're very excited to do it. We planted these obligate wetland plants in the dry. They were going to let the river in, and they have these valves there, but they were waiting on it. So we had to irrigate obligate wetland plants. And then when they let the river in, the plants were happy. So thank you very much for that. So what they did is a really cool design. All the red before is where sewers were backing up and flooding this poor neighborhood that's right next to the park. After construction, you can see the green outline. It's now dry because the water that used to flood them is in our wetland. Wetlands like water, so we'll take it all. So it was a really beautiful design. This is Horseshoe Road, another super fun. All right, we're not going to go over that. It's like a video, but I don't want to take too long. But this is like an assembly line. This is a crew we would hire when the job was bigger than our crew. Let's say we had 14 laborers. Well, they could bring on 20 if you wanted, and we could do a lot of planting in a short time. But they were so good. They had their matic, and they had in those bags fertilizer and the plants, and they were like an assembly line. The quality, I couldn't pull the plants out. The quality was amazing, and the quantity. So we did 16,000 in a day. So I won't bore you with that. And that's what it looks like. We planted it all out, and it's a huge wide marsh because they excavated all the contaminants. So now what used to be more upland is now this broad, wide marsh on the Raritan River in Sayreville that you don't see anything like it up and down the river. It's beautiful. This is Cornell DeBillier Electronics, super fund. What does the EPA do? It's so contaminated, they put a fence around it and they just block it off. You try to capture the money to restore it from the polluters, but anyway, this is the end of it, and we have all this lovely wet meadows and palustrine forests. Because when the EPA is going to give you $32 million to do a job, you're not going to put lawn down. You're going to put down some native, ecologically valid ecosystem. You're going to have something, some kind of thing that you can go back in history and say, this is what was it. This is right on the Bound Brook. They literally rebuilt the brook because all the sediments were contaminated. So that's the scale of what Bob's doing. A lot of stuff. Okay. Meadowlands, so mitigation. There's been a whole movement, and some states don't have it, where if you fill a wetland, right, you have to mitigate. There's no net loss. Some states say, no, we don't want to do that, and you have to build a wetland or whatever. New Jersey will have wetland banks. So they took a lot of the meadowlands, which was Phragmites, and if you could convert it to Spartina, it became a revenue where you could sell, it might be a pipeline that was there, but now you can sell credits for people, for developers that need wetlands. And so Bob did a lot of this, but it was given up for dead in 1962. Remember that. The yellow is all projects kind of that we did, you know, restoration. The red is contamination. It's highly contaminated. So it was converting Phragmites to Spartina, digging channels. When you saw those long reaches off the turnpike, that's what they would do in these banks. They would make channels. You have to flood it to knock the Phragmites out and spray it, and then you plant Spartina. And we put in millions of Spartina plants in the Meadowlands. This is just some of it, but I just want to show the banner of the Army Corps up above. So now Bob is up with the big boys, with the big dogs, doing federal work, which is very serious stuff and well-funded. So we loved working for the Army Corps because you actually got paid for the work you did. You didn't have to beg for it. So here's MRI 3. That used to be all Phragmites. So now, if you look at any of the Meadowlands stuff, the fish, the birds, the wildlife is all coming back because they have habitat. This was all here when Henry Hudson showed up. This was all the Spartina was billions of acres, the oysters billions of acres, and now we're trying to bring it back, project by project. Now, what was given up for dead, we see fish, diamondback terrapin, songbirds, raptors, all coming back, and there's habitat there. For a site, the Meadowlands, they tried to drain it, they tried to kill it, they tried to wipe it out. It was a glacier that melted with billions of gallons that you couldn't get rid of it. It's same as another glacier, but because it was near New York City, they tried to kill it. And the fact that they just couldn't do it. It was too wet, too mucky. So there's I think it's a greater yellow leg saying, appreciate it, Bob. Thanks for the habitat. If you build it, they will come. That's all it takes. We never bring wildlife to a job. Not once. You put in the native plants and you walk away. And like Larry talked about, it's dynamic. You do want to have some adaptive management, and we're good at that too. Oxford Mitigation Bank. Bob not only co-designed this, his nursery supplied us with trees, and we ended up with a bank. I got to do the wetland monitoring for 5 years. So Bob he's handed me my career. Like, wetland monitoring is easy, but it's work that I would not have gotten if I didn't work for Bob for all these years. He's the one that made me an adjunct professor. He's the one that I'm talking all over. I've given so many lectures in, I think, 21 states now. I got to trace it all back to my boy, Bob. So this is from Blaine Rothhauser, and it's just showing the scale from synanthropic, close to man, urban, disturbed, weedy, like Larry talked about, all the way to the right side with the conservative species, apoanthropic, away from man, wild. Our job, and we're all doing it, is to take that cursor and move it to the right. And if you move it a little to the right, then the biodiversity, now you have insects, now you have, and it just grows. So that cursor is moving further to the right. But like Larry said, you don't get to the 9s and the 10s unless you have pristine conditions. And that's what restoration is, starting that off. We start at 0 because it's Superfunds in brownfields. This is mitigation for the Goethals Bridge. If that wetland isn't built, the Army Corps and the EAP does not let you build that bridge. So mitigation, no net loss, is a huge part of our portfolio. So he helped them clean that up. And there's the crew working. The crew that Bob had, basically, they worked there for their lives, 25 years. They retired, 401ks. He even brought in a teacher to teach them Spanish. He gave them, they're like retired now in North Carolina. These guys that came in, so amazing. What Bob has done for the families that fed them and put their kids through school is just remarkable. Now, my wife said, don't talk about you. You know, I practice on her. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that if it wasn't for Bob, I would be lucky to be a cab driver. Like, Bob has just given me so much. He's been a mentor. While I'm out here doing interviews on the projects, taking photos, teaching classes, he's paying taxes, he's making payroll, he's running the company, he's buying equipment, he's sitting behind the desk, and I get to be the project manager in the field. So my gratitude is just can't be enough. All right. So I got to get all of this stuff, and I just owe it all to him. I was living in Florida. My first wife, I moved to Florida because I married the boss's daughter. She was like, Bill, you don't even have to work. Like, this was our inheritance. Moved to Florida, and I had an okay career. And Bob would actually fly me up for jobs in Queens. I would manage and stay at some friends. I'm from New York. I'd stay at my friend's house in New York, and then I'd fly back. And then one day he called me out of the blue, and he said, Billy, there's a job waiting for you in New Jersey at my company. Come back home. I came back. I packed my car the next week, but I didn't go back to New York. I went back to New Jersey, and that's my new adopted state. Oh, million trees in New York City. You heard of that? Big deal. Bob and crew planted, I don't have the numbers. I wish I did. But any job you did in New York City for sanitation, for DEP, for parks, they had a ticker. Literally, there was a person like an umpire with a clicker. And I'd say to her, how many do we have? And she goes, leave me alone, Bill. It's 482,000. And they got to 1 million. And a lot of those are from Bob. So Bob, thanks, Bob. Could not have done it without you. But Bob says, no shit, just pay me. Will you just pay me on time and we'll be okay? So this is the pollutants that are reduced by those million trees and by having taxi cabs that are green like Priuses, hybrids. This is what happens. And my daughter and grandchildren live in New York City, so thank you very much, Bob. So this is just a summary. You talk about an impact to the earth, right? We have our little garden. I live in Point Pleasant. My garden is about as big as this stage. In his lifetime, and these are rough numbers, those are the trees, shrubs, meadows, acres, and a salt marsh restore. I'd even put stream and river restoration, which is a couple of miles. So that translates into 265,000 cars removed from the road for 1 year. That's the carbon that is sucked out of the air and put into the ground by this man. I know. So, with heartfelt gratitude for Bob Swain's mentorship, nurturing, and friendship, and for the lasting impact he has had on his employees, the Native Plant Society, and the Earth, we present this award. And this is the first inaugural Bob Swain Award for Native Plant Leadership to John and Susan Landau for their extraordinary work at Foots Pond in Morristown. I'm good.
So before we get on to the Landau's Award, we have a little something for you.
Isaiah says it was cookies.
So we have a vintage print of a wild Eastern Columbine that we, or actually Kazis ordered and framed and fussed over. And there's a lovely plaque on the back that shows the whole thing. And this is for Bob in honor of his many, many years of service to NPSNJ.